To say the least, the recent Disney Star Wars sequels haven't been the greatest, and it has shown clearly that the company is leaving behind entire generations of fans that loved the Star Wars prequels and the original trilogy. When The Force Awakens released in 2015, it got relatively good feedback, with a promising look on the new franchise. J.J. Abrams seemed to have attempted to set up some storyline for where the series was to go in the future. But that seemed to be where it all started going down the path to the dark side. In 2017, we got this lump of garbage known as The Last Jedi, and it presents so many plot holes to the entire Star Wars universe that I honestly don't know what Kathleen Kennedy and Rian Johnson were thinking when writing this. The movie begins with the last of the Resistance attempting an escape from their latest base, but they are caught in the act by the First Order. Now, this could have been presented way better, and it was in Episode 4's opening scene, but here they completely missed the mark. The rebels launch an attack for no real reason on one of the largest Star Destroyers around at that time in the universe. It's the exact same thing as being outnumbered by 1,000 to 1. But worst of all is the ships they use to attack in this scene. They use bombers in this sequence, and they are moving at a snail's pace compared to the other ships around them, which is completely pointless when you could have used a Y-Wing type ship. But no, Rian said that they were inspired by the B-17 Flying Fortress of World War II, and it's clear that they are, but those planes worked in the air. If you put them in space with ships going 10 times faster than them, it's going to be a bad time. And with the speed that they are going, as soon as they drop their payload, they end up right inside the explosions themselves. Really practical. We get a few minutes of space action, and boom, the rebels destroy the ship. Hooray, and they escape. When I saw that in cinemas 2 years ago, I said, this scene does seem a bit dry. But I went along with it. And then I got this. What? We had a stormtrooper that's gone away from the First Order, and now he's a baby screaming for Rey. Rian Johnson's butchering Finn's character, and he does so for the rest of the film, and sadly, so does JJ for The Rise of Skywalker. And here's where the film gets even worse. Rey meets Luke on the planet of Ahch-To, and this is when we can see how careless Rian was with this film. Rey presents Luke with his lightsaber, the most iconic lightsaber in all of Star Wars that even belonged to his father, and he throws it away. Just like that. Fans have been watching these films for 40 years, and this man baby can make a character throw away something that has been a huge point in cinema for a laugh. I'm sure Rian Johnson's happy bathing in his money. Let's also take a moment to look at Rey's training. She points a stick next to a rock and calls it training. And remember, this film is set one day after The Force Awakens. One day! That's 24 hours! She learned yesterday that the Jedi might be real, and now she's beginning to use the Force? I don't think so, Rian. The thing with this film is, it's trying to be funny in a franchise that isn't quite based on comedy. Rian Johnson may have been better with a remake of a funnier film, like Groundhog Day, but he probably would have butchered that too. His film is relying on comedy to get along, which none of the prequels or original trilogy did. Not even Jar Jar had as much stellar humour as there was in this film. The jokes are always dry, and are much more of a quick laugh that can die away. It often ruins a scene as well, such as when Snoke dies with his tongue sticking out. It's just not needed. Let's also focus a bit on Snoke. He was set up to be some powerful Force user in The Force Awakens, and it was pretty clear that he was to have some interesting backstory, which would be seen in later movies. But Rian Johnson scrapped his entire character and killed him only around halfway into the film. With all that bad writing, JJ had to rethink of a simple explanation for it that could fit into 2 hours. I personally believe that if Rian Johnson hadn't messed with the plot of the last film so badly, we may have been able to see a great last film that wouldn't be as bad as Rise of Skywalker was. The film is also full of pointless filler, with boring subplots that could have explored some of the questions from the previous films, but instead we have Finn and Rose going to find this master codebreaker to disable a hyperspace tracker. This entire sequence made me want to fall asleep. Bad comedy paired with bad writing isn't a good mix. I still can't believe that this is a scene in the Star Wars franchise. The entire plot of this film is jumbled and silly. One of the main areas that I'm pointing out here is with Admiral Holdo. Now, I get Disney is trying to have more women in the franchise and make it better for women in general, but you can't create a character like Holdo that appears suddenly and is important for off-screen purposes. She nearly destroys her own alliance with how ignorant they made her character, and as such, her sacrifice doesn't pay off in any way except for seeing some ships explode. Speaking of which, that entire sequence is a whole nother can of worms for the Star Wars universe. If you can ram a ship at hyperspace and destroy an entire fleet, just how does that work? Why didn't we see the Rebel Alliance just ram one X-Wing into the Death Star? And somehow Holdo's one ship could destroy an entire space fleet. Rian Johnson's back at it again. Let's now move to the climax of this film, when they are on a Hoth ripoff with some retexturized and resized AT-ATs. Rian basically grabbed the Battle of Hoth from Empire Strikes Back and put a wall in front of the Resistance. What a great battle. When Finn was going to sacrifice himself to destroy the laser, I thought that Rian may have finally done something right. Psych! Rose appears out of nowhere, basically guaranteeing a loss for the entire Resistance. How did she even catch up to Finn? She was good 50 meters behind, and then a second later she's there. And Rey? She turns up at the last second and then absolutely shreds half the TIE fighters. Remember, yesterday Rey didn't even know Jedi existed, and somehow she can now shoot 3 TIE fighters out of the sky at once. Yeah. And then, to let the rest of the Resistance escape, she force lifts about 30 rocks above the ground. It took Luke weeks of training with Yoda to lift 1 rock, and this girl from a Tatooine planet ripoff can suddenly lift 30 rocks a day or two after finding out Jedi were even a thing. The whole film could definitely have been way better if we actually had a director that wanted to work off of what JJ started in The Force Awakens. But sadly, that didn't happen, and we lost what may have been a great trilogy. This one film has led to fans boycotting the Solo and Rise of Skywalker films, thus leading Disney's Star Wars films out of the center stage and slowly beginning to die away. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you enjoyed my video. A like and sub would be greatly appreciated, so if you like what I do, consider subscribing. I'll see you all in the next video. I'm just recording it, so be quiet.
You're a little.
I'm no one.